Hello. Let's talk about calcium today. Calcium kind of goes in tandem with vitamin D a lot of times because they are both very important for bone health. Now, calcium is the most abundant mineral in our body. Fun fact there. Bust that out on trivia night and give me credit. It's in our bones, our teeth, and it has a lot of functions in our body, right? Most everything has more than just one function in our body. Calcium's very important for muscle contraction and relaxation. If you've ever had like a really bad cramp in your calf or your foot, sometimes that's just like a momentary funky calcium thing. It's also really important for your nervous system. So intrinsically, your body uses calcium. And if we don't get enough outside calcium, your body's just going to take it from your bones, right? You've got this rich source of calcium inside of you. So if you're not getting enough, your body's just going to pull it. But we don't want that to happen because that can weaken our bones over time and give you increased risk for bone softening, which puts you then at risk for fractures, right? So calcium is very important. And to me, it's extra important because even though I'm a huge fan of getting things from food sources, it's not found in a ton of food sources. So let's get into that. Most of the time when we think about calcium coming from food, we think about dairy, milk. It is a good source of calcium. Let's go a little bit deeper though. I have the gallon of milk that my kids drink, and you can't really see it on here, but it says, serving size 1 cup, calcium, in parentheses, 25% DV. What does that mean? So the daily value, the government's recommendation for calcium intake is, generally speaking, 1,000 milligrams per day. Now, it's going to vary like in younger ages, but overall for ages 18 into like adulthood, it's 1,000 milligrams. So if this is saying 25% of DV, well, I'll do that math, 250 milligrams. So 250 milligrams. So in order to get enough calcium in your diet, you would need to drink 4 glasses of milk a day. Well, there's other sources too though, right? Now, I like my almond milk. I don't really drink this plain, but when I have my morning coffee, I'll add some of this. Or if I'm making a protein shake, I'll use this as the base. I'll use this in my overnight oats. Now, this label is different. You probably can't see this either, but calcium, 450 milligrams. Instead of giving us a percent DV, they just tell us how many milligrams. That's kind of my preference. I don't know why that's not on the milk label, but 450 milligrams. So this actually has 200 more milligrams of calcium per cup than the actual milk. So hey, that's pretty cool, right? So a lot of people who might have a lactose intolerance and just don't really like cow's milk, the milk substitutes are going to be a really good option. Apart from dairy, sometimes it's added to foods. You might see orange juice that's been fortified with calcium. I'm not a huge juice girl. No surprise, right? I'm just so fun. But there is a popular brand of orange juice that is fortified with calcium. So that's a pretty decent source actually. Usually I think that's about 350 milligrams of calcium per cup there. Yogurt, of course it's a dairy food I guess, but that's only going to have about 200 milligrams of calcium. So it might be worthwhile to track your calcium intake throughout the day just to kind of get a sense of, well, how much dairy do you actually drink or how much dairy do you eat? Cheese has some calcium too, about 160-ish milligrams. So you might be getting it kind of here and there throughout your day. But again, I'm not a big dairy girl. Yes, I'll do a little bit of the almond milk, probably not even a cup worth per day most days. So that's why I do take the supplement here, and let's get into that. Now, this supplement, I talked last week about how there is vitamin D in here, also important for bone health and calcium absorption. Calcium, 600 milligrams. So if I need 1,000 milligrams per day, do I take 2 of these? But that would be 1,200 milligrams. I like the way that they do this because almost all of us do get some calcium from dietary sources. So you wouldn't even need 2 of these per day unless you really don't do any calcium sources at all. No dairy, no almond milk, soy milk. You could just take one of these and then your food sources would kind of fill in that gap. So that's nice. I do like that. Now, I don't know if it says so on here, but if we're going to get like really dietitian-y and technical here, this calcium is calcium carbonate. There are 2 main forms of calcium, and this was very important when I was working in the bariatric surgery field. There's calcium carbonate and calcium citrate. Calcium carbonate is by far the most prevalent form of calcium that you're going to find at the drugstore. Like when you're standing there and you're looking at all the different calciums, chances are good they're going to be calcium carbonate. Calcium citrate is going to be a little bit more expensive. Calcium citrate would be the better option if you have compromised gut absorption. So like for my bariatric patients, depending on what type of surgery they had, well, actually, no matter what type of surgery they had, they wouldn't have the normal amount of stomach acid and they wouldn't have the correct gut channel that you're going down to absorb. So if you have an intact gut, you don't have any absorption issues, calcium carbonate is going to be just fine. But I do want to flag you if you've had a bariatric surgery procedure, you do want to get that calcium citrate. Again, sometimes it's a little bit more expensive, but otherwise, yeah, don't worry about it too much. If you, let's say you have a normal gut and you buy calcium citrate, is that going to be a benefit? No, not really. I mean, just go with whatever you think looks good. And more importantly, go with what you think you can be compliant with, right? I used to buy these, they're called Viactives. They're like these calcium chews. They're kind of like Tootsie Rolls. And I thought, oh, hey, this will be like having a treat. This will help me get my calcium. They were more expensive than, just your basic little, I shouldn't say little pill. Again, these guys really are big. And while they tasted okay, they're the nastiest aftertaste, and I just dreaded taking them. So then they sat in my cabinet for forever till they got kind of like hard, and then I really didn't want to take them. So again, we might have good intentions, but you got to be realistic with yourself. Like, what is going to help you get down those supplements? There is a petite version of calcium, Citracal makes it. If those are going to help you, let's say they are more expensive, which I think they are, but if the size is going to help you take those down, then it's worth it. Spend the extra bucks. Again, stick with what you think looks best and what you can be compliant with. Like most things in nutrition, there is such thing as too much of a good thing, and calcium is no exception. You can overdo it with calcium, and the main risk there is developing kidney stones. Now, I've never had a kidney stone. It's not something that I want to experience. For kind of obvious reasons. I guess it's a little bit easier for women to pass them than guys. But anyways, let's try to not overdo it on the calcium. So I said 1,000 is the general goal for adults. The upper limit that you don't really want to exceed is 2,500 milligrams. So it would not benefit you to start pounding the milk plus taking a calcium supplement. Try to just stick to that 1,000 milligram range. Now, postmenopausal women are at greater risk for osteoporosis and osteomalacia, the softening of the bones, because that has to do with your estrogen production. And plus, as we age, our absorption starts to tank a little bit. Anyways, there has been research that has linked the oral supplements in postmenopausal women to an increased risk of kidney stones. So that sucks. I have to say though, if you're faced with a slight risk of a kidney stone versus, I don't know, fracturing a hip, I mean, what's the lesser of two evils here? Again, I've never had a kidney stone, so I can't truly compare. But that's just my take on it. The good news, though, of the research that has studied calcium in postmenopausal women has found that women who get it from their diet don't have an increased risk of kidney stones. So maybe if you're 51 plus, it would be a good idea to take stock of your calcium intake. If you're lower than 1200 milligrams, which if you're over 51 or postmenopausal, they do up your calcium recommendation. So if you're under 1200 milligrams, it would be smart to add some calcium, but trying to hit it through dietary forms rather than supplements if you can. Again, definitely not the end of the world to do this. So yeah, postmenopausal women need a little bit more, and men age 71 plus also need 1200 milligrams. But if you're under 51 for women, it's 1000. Under 71 for men, it's 1000 is that goal. So that's calcium. Super important mineral to make sure that we're getting in order to have the healthy bone tissue as we age. Time is not on our side, like so many things in life. Anyway, if you have any questions, just feel free to leave them in the comments and I will be sure to answer them.